My husband Mark and I had been married for 5 years. We met in college, and for a long time, I thought our life together was pretty perfect. He was a junior architect, and I worked as a freelance graphic designer. We weren't rolling in money, but we were comfortable, happy, and building a future. Or so I believed. Everything changed the day my grandfather passed away. My grandpa was an incredible man. He built a successful business from the ground up and had always been my biggest supporter. We were incredibly close, and losing him was devastating. During the reading of his will, I was stunned to learn he had left me the bulk of his estate, a sum that amounted to roughly $35 million. I couldn't even process the number. It felt unreal, like something out of a movie. My first thought wasn't about the money, but about the immense trust and love he had shown me. When I got home, I was still in a state of shock and grief. I found Mark in the living room, pacing back and forth, looking unusually agitated. The moment he saw me, he rushed over, but not to comfort me. His eyes were wide with a strange, almost manic excitement. "So, tell me, how much did we get?" he asked, his voice a little too loud. I was taken aback. "Mark, my grandpa just died. Can we not talk about this right now?" I said, my voice trembling. I know, I'm sorry for your loss, honey, of course," he said, patting my arm dismissively. "But this is huge, life-changing. We need to know the number." The way he said "we" struck me as odd, but I was too emotionally drained to argue. I told him the amount. $35 million. Mark's jaw dropped. For a second he was speechless, then a slow, wide grin spread across his face. It wasn't a happy-for-you grin. It was a hungry, calculating look that sent a shiver down my spine. He started talking a mile a minute, listing all the things we could buy. A new mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, a yacht. He was talking about quitting his job, traveling the world first class, and living a life of pure indulgence. He didn't once ask how I was feeling or mention my grandfather's memory. It was all about the money. Over the next few days, his behavior became even more unsettling. He was constantly on his phone, looking up real estate in exotic locations and browsing websites for supercars. He treated the inheritance like a lottery win that we had both won. I tried to talk to him, to explain that I needed time to grieve and that I wanted to be responsible with this money, maybe start a foundation in my grandpa's name. He would just wave his hand and say, Yeah, philanthropy. We can do that later. But first, let's have some fun. The real breaking point came about a week later. We were having dinner, and he seemed more serious than usual. "Honey," he began, putting his fork down, "I've been thinking a lot about my mom." My mother-in-law, Carol, was a difficult woman. She had never really approved of me, and always made passive-aggressive comments about my career and family. Mark, however, worshipped the ground she walked on and could never see her faults. "What about her?" I asked cautiously. "Well, she's had such a hard life," he said, his voice dripping with manufactured sympathy. "She worked so hard to raise me on her own. She deserves to be comfortable. She deserves to be rewarded for her sacrifices." I nodded slowly. "Okay. I was thinking we could help her pay off her mortgage and maybe set up a fund for her expenses. That would make her life a lot easier." Mark shook his head, a stern look on his face. "No, that's not enough. I'm talking about a real reward. I want you to give her the money." I blinked, sure I had misheard him. "The money? What money?" "The inheritance, of course," he said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "All of it, $35 million. You should give it to my mom." I just stared at him, my mind struggling to comprehend the audacity of his demand. Was this a joke? I looked for a hint of a smile, a twinkle in his eye, anything to suggest he wasn't being serious. But his face was completely straight, filled with a sense of entitlement that was genuinely shocking. And then I started to laugh. It wasn't a small chuckle, it was a loud, full-throated, uncontrollable laugh. The sheer absurdity of it all just broke something inside me. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Mark's expression shifted from self-righteousness to confusion, and then to anger. "What's so funny?" "I'm being serious," he snapped. "You're serious?" I gasped, trying to catch my breath. "You seriously want me to take the $35 million my grandfather left me and just hand it over to your mother? The woman who can barely stand the sight of me? Why on earth would I do that? Because she's my mother, he yelled, standing up from his chair. She deserves it. She's family. And as my wife, your money is our money. It's your duty to help my family. The laughter died in my throat, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. In that moment, I saw Mark for who he truly was. He didn't see me as his partner. He saw me as a walking bank account. Our 5 years of marriage, our shared memories, our future, it all meant nothing compared to this sudden windfall. He hadn't just suggested it, he had demanded it, as if it were his right. He spoke of my duty as a wife, but what about his duty as a husband? Where was his concern for my feelings, my grief, my wishes? No, Mark, I said, my voice now steady and firm. My money is not our money. This was left to me by my grandfather. It's mine. And I will not be giving it to your mother, or to you for that matter. His face turned red with rage. You're being unbelievably selfish, after everything my mom has done for me, for us. What has she done for us? I challenged him. Critique my cooking? Ask when I'm going to quit my little hobby and get a real job? Tell her friends that you could have done better? Your mother has done nothing but try to undermine our marriage from day one. Don't you dare talk about my mother that way, he roared. I'll talk about her however I want, I shot back, standing up to face him. And I'll do whatever I want with my money. This conversation is over. The weeks that followed were a living nightmare. Mark alternated between begging, threatening, and trying to guilt-trip me. He brought his mother over, and she sat on my couch, weeping crocodile tears about her hard life, while giving me pointed looks. She told me a good daughter-in-law would know her place and honor her husband's wishes. It was a coordinated attack, a disgusting display of greed and manipulation. They tried to paint me as a villain, a greedy, unfeeling monster who was hoarding wealth from a deserving old woman. Mark's entire argument rested on the idea that because I was his wife, everything I had belonged to him and, by extension, his mother. It was then I realized that our entire relationship, in his eyes, was transactional. I had been a suitable partner when we were equals, but now that I had something he desperately wanted, I was just an obstacle. I didn't give in. I hired a lawyer, not just for financial advice, but for divorce proceedings. When Mark was served the papers, he was flabbergasted. He actually said, "You're leaving me? But what about our money?" The fact that he still called it our money was the final confirmation I needed. His delusion was absolute. The divorce was messy, not because of the assets, the inheritance was legally ironclad as mine alone, but because of his bitterness. He and his mother launched a smear campaign against me, telling anyone who would listen that I was a cold-hearted gold digger who had abandoned my husband after coming into money. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Fortunately, our true friends knew my character and saw through their lies. They had seen Mark's personality change overnight and knew who was really at fault. Looking back, my grandfather's gift wasn't just the money, it was a wake-up call. It revealed the ugly truth about the man I had married. His demand that I give my inheritance to his mother wasn't just about the $35 million. It was a demand for my submission, for my identity to be erased and absorbed into his. And my laughter, in that moment, was the sound of my own liberation. It was the sound of me realizing my own worth, independent of him or anyone else. Today, I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do. I've set up a charitable foundation in my grandfather's name that helps young entrepreneurs get their start, just like he did. I've secured my future and the futures of many others. The money didn't change me, but it revealed the true nature of everyone around me, and for that, I am eternally grateful. I lost a husband, but I found myself, and you can't put a price on that. Thanks for listening to my story. It's a wild one, I know. If you've ever been in a situation where money changed a relationship, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.